Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Subject Matter. I'm your host, Stephen Jenkins, here with your co-host, Mr. Jonathan Dayton. We are experts in nothing, here to give you our thoughts and opinions on all of it. Jonathan?
Yeah?
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, my
You
ear.
have something going on. Yeah. He was a hero tonight.
It's not a hero. Firefighter, put out fire. Fire's hot. Burnt my ear a little bit. It's really not that bad. It's just... It hurt, so I put Neosporin on it and some like burning cream on it.
Walked in tonight.
And so I didn't want to like.
Think you were gonna be able to record.
I'm deaf out of ear. I can't hear. So it's really not that bad, but I didn't want the cream to drip, and it was So we put bandage. Okay, so let me back up just a moment here. So I did ask Addie. I said, can you bandage my ear up? Can you put I was thinking like gauze over the tip, because it's really not the whole ear, it's just part of the ear. And like put a Band-Aid over that and call it a good day, put some Neosporin on it. And she comes out with Band-Aids. And so she uses 2 Band-Aids, and she said, that's not enough. And I said, that's probably plenty. She said, no, it's not. And so she said, I'm going to get more Band-Aids. And so this is what we came up with. And I said, why don't you get gauze? I mean, we have gauze places, I don't know, obviously not in the medicine cabinet. And she goes, we don't have any. And we do somewhere, I'm not sure where. And so this is the solution that we came up with.
Sure.
No, but this is a serious question for firefighters. A lot of firefighters burn their ears pretty frequently in fires. But we wear things called Nomexes, for those that don't know what it's where. It's basically a hood that covers your ears, and that's the only thing that covers your ears, except for sometimes helmet have flaps that come down too. But they're fire resistant hoods, but they don't really resist the heat your gear does. And so I don't know if there's a better solution for that out there to protect the ears of firefighters, because it's all the time. I mean, I would say one of the most common injuries is just burnt ears.
I wonder why. And all joking aside, that seems like
a simple thing that's been going on for hundreds of years. Oh, I'm gonna say hundreds of years, but for a long time, and then no one's come up with a better solution to protect the ears. I don't know. It's a good question. Helmet. Big helmet protects the head. Gear, it's like double insulated, so protects the body. Boots are thick rubber, leather. Gloves are real thick, but the hood's like sweatshirt material,
right?
Fire resistant sweatshirt material, but it doesn't really keep the heat off of you.
Fire resistant, heat resistant, I guess, are two different things.
I would say they're different things, but yeah.
I mean, okay.
That's my side tangent for the night.
I'm not happy that it happened to you, but I'm happy that we recorded right after.
Yeah.
To have something.
Really didn't need it on, but the plus just looked.
You don't
disgusting.
want something bad to happen, but if Be Real went off right after something bad did happen and you had a story to tell and get yourself attention.
That wouldn't be a story to tell.
I'm not saying you're trying to get attention.
No.
I don't know what I'm talking about. We don't have a topic.
We really have no topic tonight
for this evening. But we started this thing where we do every other week, and then we skipped 2 weeks. We were going to record. This isn't like the normal us type thing. No. This was actually legitimate. I got sick and we couldn't record last week because it was Thanksgiving, and so I didn't want to get him sick and family stuff and all that. So we just didn't record.
We've just been very busy.
That too.
This week was terrible for me. Like, I was out of town for multiple days. I got back. Today is the only day that I've been in town. Is today, and we're recording tonight, and I get up tomorrow at like 5 to leave to go to a meeting this weekend, and then to DC on Sunday. So it's really it's Christmas season. It's the holiday season.
We say that knowing full well we've made the exact same excuses for the entire year, but it is what it is. I think the people who are going to listen are going to listen.
Absolutely.
And I think interestingly enough, I think the last 2 episodes that we had were actually really good. Specifically, the one that we had, the last 2.
Oh yeah, I like the last 2
with the hypothetical questions.
I really like those episodes.
But yeah, this year has been not as saturated as we'd like to with episodes. Hopefully, going into the new year, we'll be able to get things more on track the way they were in 2022. And if not, we're having fun with it either way. So, as always, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. I was saying this stuff that I usually say at the end, but I wanted to remember to do it at the beginning now. But yeah, do all that good stuff. And if you have a topic you want us to talk about, leave it in the comments. We have a couple of people who comment every week about the discussion, and we certainly appreciate that. Those people, let us know what you want us to talk about. Let us know what guests you want to have on. We'll try to get anybody you want on the podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm not afraid to DM people.
Yeah. Well, we said for a long time, though. I mean, people are like, that'd be cool to come on. Like, well, then ask us. We'd love to have you on and have a conversation, with what you want to talk about, because that's interesting to other people. We've promoted people in Zoom, so that's
Arizona Green Tea's been an unofficial sponsor of this podcast
for a long time.
For longer than it's been a thing. But yeah, so as far as tonight goes, and I don't know how much of editing will be done with this particular episode, just because we're kind of going off the cuff. What is new, Jonathan, with your? I don't want to say with your life. You can be with your life. Like, what's new with you? What is your? I'll put it this way. I'll rephrase the question like this. What is your mind on? I know you have your schedule and stuff like that, but what is your mind like fixated on right now that your brain is like constantly?
Working school. And that's a dumb answer, but I have like some work deadlines I need to get done like this weekend. They should have been done today, technically. And if you're listening to this, they really should have been done today. Life got busy. But also then school. Like, I really need to finish my degree, and like I'm procrastinated on my paper that I'm doing. Granted, it was just graded last week, so I need to do the revisions. But like that's also on me too. But it's hard to balance things, and when your life is super, super busy, it's just been challenging recently. But in the other world, that's pretty cool, is been traveling a lot, like Steven kind of alluded to. Out of town this weekend, just came back from going on a trip, impromptu work trip, and then have a couple things scheduled for later in the year. I have an Excel spreadsheet. This again is boring, but kind of cool, and it kind of sets up where I'm going. And been able to take Ember with us, so my baby Ember, and she flew for the first time not too long ago. Went to Tampa down there, which was super neat. And I would highly recommend, if you're hesitant, flying with a child, maybe do it, because you'll enjoy yourself. And I love traveling. People are so reluctant to travel sometimes. Some people love it, but I like going to see new places, and I think it's just super cool. So those are the boring things on my mind here recently, but. Life update and on mind update. So what's on your mind, Steven?
To your point about traveling, my traveling is much different than your traveling. However, I have traveled more in the last 2 years than I have on a regular basis. Not more than I have my entire life, but the amount of times that I've gone out of town for like little weekend things and things like that have risen a good bit. And as an adult, I noticed that I really do enjoy that a lot.
So much fun.
Just even just the simple driving in a different city is okay. I like going out to just walk in a different place, and just okay, people are here on a daily basis every single day. I have no idea what this place is about, and then just kind of walking around seeing what it's all about. It sounds so cliche, because everybody who talks about travel, those are the exact same things that they say, the exact same ways that they phrase it. And listeners know I hate trying to be a cliche, even though I'm one of the biggest cliches on the planet. But I really do enjoy the thought of just packing up and saying, hey, we're going to New York for a weekend. Just doing it. Spur of the moment to me is always more fun than planning a trip for a year. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of this is sudden and it's exciting, and that stresses a lot of people out, and sometimes spontaneity can stress me out. But for things like that, it's hey, in 2 weeks you want to go and get dinner 2 hours away at this restaurant I know about. It's sure, let's do it.
I'm both. I love being spontaneous. Even spontaneous is 24 hours. If you called me tomorrow morning, it's hey, Monday, let's go get dinner.
Right.
3 hours away and stay the night, and we'll come home Tuesday. I'd be oh, sure. But I'd have a full agenda plan. I am an agenda freak, and Addie and my wife hates this. My calendar is my calendar, and it's my life. So my calendar's full. We're going out of town. I have an agenda, and I have a list of places we're going to go eat or potential things. Some places, and when I go, it's more detailed than others. But I love. I can be spontaneous, but I still plan even if I'm spontaneous. Even if it's an hour, someone's I'll pick you up at 5 o'clock and it's 4 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I would still have plans. Where's the nearest gas station? What can we do at that place? That's just who I am. But I've traveled more in the past 2 years than I've probably ever traveled in my life. I mean, just a lot of plane rides, a lot of traveling. But you're right. And when you said it's kind of cliche, you like to walk around places and kind of explore places. I just kind of realized at the age that I am right now that there's so many places out there that we haven't seen.
Right, yeah.
And we haven't gone to. And unless we go do it and adventure while you can, then you'll never, ever be able to say that, you've been there. And I always like going places and not going back to them again unless I really love them. Like, I'm like a checklist person. Like, if I've been to New York once and I love it, I'd go back, but I want to go somewhere else next time I'm up there.
Right. Now, interestingly enough, that's where you and I differ, because I generally, I find something that I like, and I'm like, all right, well, this worked the first time, why not do it again? Why, sort of the if something ain't broke, don't fix it type deal.
I get that.
But then half the time, the number of times where I've had a plan and then the plan's gone wrong and then a new plan gets created and I end up liking what happens there just as much. Then I'm like, now I got to choose. Now it's like, okay, so that actually really worked. Or better yet, sometimes it'll be like, okay, now I know if the plan goes wrong next time, we can just do this instead.
Yep.
And that can kind of, because I'm all about sort of tradition.
Yeah.
Tradition of he and I, this is actually, we were going to film in the car for our weekly. We
still will.
We still will at some point. But we always go on a trip right before Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, with Addie and one of our other friends. We actually documented it last year. I think it's still on our social media account.
Probably.
In the stories, I think. I don't know. We can throw it up there if it's not. But anyway, so we have this trip that we do, and it got changed this year because I was sick and we couldn't go on it and everything. But that sort of tradition is things that I like. We decided to change. Now it didn't happen, but we decided we're going to change up where we go and what we do this year.
Yes.
Which initially, to me, when it was proposed, I was like, but it's so different. It's not going to be the same. But then but you only think it has to be like that because that's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So changing things up is something that I have gotten more used to as far as it comes to traditions.
There's certain traditions that come up every year that are some that are just started on their second year that I want to go do that exact same thing.
Yep.
And there's traditions like that where I think it's just, for me, that day is just the day of being with friends, and it's the same day every year, and that's tradition in itself. What we do can vary, but as long as we're together, the same people, enjoying ourselves doing the same similar thing, which I think the two biggest kickers there for us, and if you follow us on social media, you already know, is Topgolf and Costco.
Yes.
Usually the two main staples.
Which, ironically, for me, is sort of how we always describe it, because that's how it started.
Yes.
Was Costco, me getting a TV, see one of our previous episodes for that story.
Reference, yeah.
I don't know which one, but that was how it started.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that's the Costco is actually the part of the trip that I care about the least. For me, it's always been the shopping, and the mall, and then of course Topgolf. That's the stuff that I really like about those trips. But yeah, it's just I enjoy if I'm going to go out of town and I know that something is really good. If there's a restaurant that I really like, I like to eat there again, because I know if I find a new restaurant, they might have a fantastic menu. Most restaurants, especially local restaurants around here, I've never tasted 98% of the things on their menu because I try something once, I like it, why bother trying to find something new and having the chance of being disappointed? And then, of course, when they're out of that, then I try something new, and then I'll be ordering that the next 5 times that I'm there. But it's just sort of that security of knowing what you're going to get, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as things that aren't related to personal life, one thing, and I've noticed this for a long time, but I feel like in the last year it's gotten particularly worse, just culture in general.
Okay.
How little, and this is more so online debates, and maybe that's a bad example because they're the extreme, but just how extreme discussions are about things, and literally anything can fall into this category, and how you're either on one side or the other, and there's very little in between. Jonathan.
Oh yeah.
How I generally fall in the middle on a lot of things.
Everything.
Even if I lean on something, and even if I lean pretty heavily, I always try to but why are so many people over here, and acknowledge okay, yeah, but it doesn't have to be so black and white. And what I've noticed is that no matter what side you're on, you cannot be anything but an extreme, because people on the extreme will simply label you as extreme on the other side, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to think of a good example, but So, for example, I'll use a movie that just recently came out because that's where a lot of my debates come from. Okay.
Fair.
A movie just came out. It's a new Marvel movie. It's irrelevant what the movie is. It's irrelevant what the movie is. I saw it. I didn't particularly care for it that much. I thought it was entertaining to an extent, and some of the scenes were funny, but I thought that the actual plot of the movie was all over the place. A lot of it didn't make sense, and it just did not work on a whole bunch of different levels. The problem is that I'm on the side that didn't really like it. The problem is that also on my side of that center point, right? Just clear past the center point are the people who didn't like it simply because it had 3 female leads and are just blatantly sexist about it. Okay? And my problem is I have issues with other movies that do the whole, girl power thing in place of actual plot and whatnot.
Fair.
I never, watching this, got any overt, it's because we're girls and we need to change. Like, that wasn't what the movie was at all, right? I didn't get that. I sounded like Mickey Mouse there that wasn't Mickey Mouse. It sounded like somebody. I don't know what it was, but I didn't get that at all, right? People like to throw people on, and I say on my side of the argument as if there's not 3 sides to this argument, but I say on my side of the argument, people on the far extremes just throw that out because they see the trailer, they see, it's got 3 female leads, it must just be that, and they immediately decide not to like it before they've even seen it, right?
You're right. I see what you're saying.
Right. And I'm also not on the far extreme that is automatically going to like it and support it because it has those leads. They're like, if you have anything to say about it, you're a sexist along with all those other people on your side of the argument, right? So I don't want to be on... I can't find myself on either extreme, even though I'm dead in the middle.
So... I'm not gonna bring politics in this, but it's, if you look at politics, there's right and there's left.
Yep.
And if you're on the right side, but you're close to being moderate and not far right, then the far right's lumped you into the left side. And if you're on the left side and you have some things that sway with the right side, the whole far left side lumps you in with the right side.
Right.
There's no balance. You can't. Maybe it's like the world at this point. You can't find a balance.
It's not best of both worlds. It's the worst.
Yes,
but you get the worst.
It's extreme
of
both. It's one side or the other. There's no balance, and I think that's hard. Cause you see it on like just Facebook, like fights and arguments nowadays. It's like if you say one thing, they'll lump you in with one group, and if you say another thing, they'll lump you in the other group. There's no, people just can't have their opinion nowadays and not be lumped into one side of it.
There's a lack of nuance. It's a lot. It's if you have somebody, take any controversial person, who is, we'll say 70% a piece of crap, terrible person. If I can simultaneously say he's mostly a bad person, and I can also say he has some good there that he's done, right? Those can both be true at the same time.
True.
The problem is that if you say anything remotely positive about certain people, even if you agree they're mostly bad, then you're suddenly pro this person.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Likewise, there are some times where you'll be like, yeah, I agree, that person's mostly good. We need to acknowledge that they also did this, and this, and that's not good. Oh, now I'm suddenly anti this person. You either have to agree fully or you have to agree with only part of. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is that when you're interacting with people and arguments, you can agree with certain things and you can disagree with others, and that by no means that you're endorsing all of or none of.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
And you see this with literally everything, and it's really just turned America like against each other in a way. Like everyone wants to find the one thing that you said that was wrong. If you might say, like you just mentioned, 50,000 things that are right, not one thing that's wrong. That's the one thing that they dwell on. And no one can be perfect, and no situation is ever perfect. And there's always something bad about it. And the people, like, that's what they do. Like, keyboard warriors in social media.
Yeah.
That's what they live for. Like people, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day that live for stirring up drama on social media, and that's what they get their kicks out of. I don't get it, and it just does not make sense to me that people spend their energy trying to find the wrong thing in a right situation,
right, just
to stir up drama, or in a wrong situation, try to find the right thing, the one small right thing, to flip it, to flip the script.
To flip around and defend. Well, and I'm guilty of doing a lot of replying to comments and things like that too. And what I've noticed is that the toxicity of it all will seep into you, and it'll make you think, if I can just win this one argument.
Yeah.
Right? And what you realize after a while is that you've forgotten 99% of all the discussions you've ever had, and the result was one of you not responding anymore. Yeah. That's it. Like, that's the best case scenario. The best case scenario you can hope for is that they'll reply, you know what, you're right, I've changed my mind due to the things that you've said. Will that ever happen? Almost never. Yeah. The best case scenario you will ever likely receive is that they will just simply stop responding to you, and you will never know what happens to them. Yep. And likely their mind will never be changed, because quite frankly, your mind wasn't changed. And I'm guilty of that as much as anybody, because I do the exact same thing.
But it's become it's just a giant time waster, and this is more like a psychology debate. Like, that would be a cool topic, is just to talk about like how the mind works, because a lot of this is just addictive behavior, and no one out there can say that they don't have this that come across their life at least once a week, if not once daily. It happens to everybody.
It happens to everybody, and some people are better at, like, some people I know, they've had that, and that sort of scares them a little bit, and they're like, oh, I'm getting way too deep into this, and they will delete Facebook or TikTok or whatever, and then they'll put it away. And more power to them.
Yeah.
More power to them to do that.
But it's people, some people that don't have social media, they just still come across, even if you don't have social media, it still happens in your daily life. And some people that get on social media will be like, I'm not reacting to this, I'm just going to scroll past it and ignore it. But then 10 seconds later, they'll tell their spouse, hey, I saw this on Facebook. Did you see this? I didn't react to it, but this drove me nuts. It's like, even though you didn't react to it and comment and you scroll right past it, you're still, the fact is, you're still interacting with it, just with your spouse or with your brother or your sister, or your cousin or your friend, or even. Well, and the platforms too are designed, even if you don't comment, even if you don't like or anything, simply having your screen stop on a post for a certain amount of time. The algorithm.
Tells the algorithm engagement.
Yep.
Just viewing for a certain amount of time, and even if it's not a video, Facebook tracks how long you stop to look at a post. And if you even so much as go to the comment section, even if you don't like any comments, even if you don't reply to anybody, it knows they went to the comment section. That means they had some sort of engagement. They had enough interest in whatever this post said, positive or negative, that they're going to that they will probably have the same reaction to another post, and they'll show you another one, and it'll keep going in this vicious cycle, to the point where I have a flood of vegan posts, like purely PETA inspired posts to the extreme of veganism on my feed, simply because I've looked at, and I've not even half the time commented, just looked at the posts to see how ridiculous some of them are. Okay. And if you're vegan, again, you can be vegan all you want. I have nothing against vegans. I'm just saying that the extreme of that argument of certain posts that people make with the aim to be negative have come up on my feed, and they kind of bother me, because it's like, all right, guys, really? Without having an actual argument. And then they continue to go and show up on my feed, which then gets me... You said psychologically. Psychologically, yes. What it does is make you think that it's a much bigger issue than it actually is. Because in my mind now, there's this entire, 3 billion people society on Facebook that are wanting to do all these things in the name of veganism, right? And that's not the case. If you actually pay attention to who posts these things, it's like the same 3 groups over and over again. And they have like maybe 1,000 people in them. So what? 3,000 people are posting these things, but that's what Facebook's feeding you. And so
I just love this, because it's like the topic that we're talking about, like, got in his brain. This is how it works.
I don't know. We've spent too much time, and maybe I'll edit this down in editing.
This. I have one last thing for you, Steven.
Yeah.
and I think we're probably getting close to time. So, and I'm not gonna get into the full debate because I think it's relevant, but not something that we need to talk about on the podcast. So, have you seen Elon Musk's recent blow up?
I have. I was refraining from bringing this.
Elon Musk basically said a big blank you to all the advertisers on X or Twitter, and said that you can't hold over advertising over my head and blackmail me. If you want to remove you from the platform, that's on you. Go for it. And then the rebuttal was that if you don't have the advertisers, then X, Twitter basically would fail, and business would fail. And Elon's response was, and that's for the people to decide. So I guess my point to bring that up is it brings up a really good point. Like, if you think about that whole debacle there, and advertisers, withholding their advertising monies from a particular place, do you blame Elon for saying the big blank you to all of them, or do you blame the advertisers that make the business fail? It's a tricky place. And the other thing that you have to think about is how X has disrupted the market with freedom of speech, where people think that that's a bad thing, but it's also one of the rights of every American is freedom of speech.
Right.
So where does, and this is a whole topic for another conversation, but it comes into the play of advertising revenue and moderation and social media content and what's inciting violence. This is a whole big topic, but I just wanted to bring up what Elon had said during his interview because it was very relevant to social media.
Right.
The short version on that is simply that it's difficult because what you think of that will become solely based on what your position on Twitter being censored or not censored is.
Yes.
Because if you think Twitter needs to be censored by fact checkers or the government or whatever, you're most likely going to say, of course, the big advertisers have every right to pull their ads and whatnot. And of course they can do that. And that's on Elon, right? And if you think that Twitter should be uncensored, or somewhere in between, right? And that shouldn't be a thing, then you're going to think, well, the advertisers are in the wrong because they're against free speech. And so again, you can be in between that on that issue. And I would say, yes, advertisers have every right to do so. I'm not sure that makes them in the right, though, because free speech is important.
Yes. A whole other topic for another time. But it's relevant to what just happened within like the last 48 hours. And it's no CEO of a company would ever do that except for Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And basically, even if Twitter were to fail, which it will, I don't see that foreseeing being something that fails. But he could bankroll that thing for as long as he wanted to. Although it's a project of his, it's basically, I find it like it's a pet project of his. Like, if it fails, it fails.
It seems to me, without commenting on Elon too much, it seems to me that he saw that he had the money to do it, and he was like, I'm not saying he's in full like sandbox living life because he can mode, but it's like you said, it's like a pet. It's kind of like, let's just see what happens.
It's what it is to him.
If you have the power to take one of the biggest, if not the biggest, social media platforms on the planet and just see what happens with it. Yeah. We had the discussion about what you would do if you were the richest person on earth.
That's him. To have that much money and just to basically to live in a way that he's with no fear or worry of like what happens. Other rich people have a fear or worry, like if their company fails and they lose all this money. Like he has no fear or worry whatsoever.
Right.
And to live without that, to the extent of what he does, it's just kind of mind blowing.
But that's about all the time we have. I don't know what I'm going to title this episode or anything. We covered a lot of ground.
And went everywhere. Travel, social media.
We went travel. Yeah. Stuff, social media, a whole bunch of
maybe just call it opinions.
Hodgepodge opinions. We've had like 3 episodes called opinions. I'm pretty sure we've had
opinions part 3.
We've had like opinions, like seasons opinion. I forget. There's been a whole bunch of opinion episodes. I'll probably just put like what's new and be done with it. But as always, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. I need to come up with something better to say there because I'm tired of stealing Rhett and Link's entire shtick. But do all that anyway until I come up with something else. And as always, we don't have an outro. We'll see you later.